Hi, everyone. Jocelyn Vio here, writer. Oh, sorry. Yes, sorry. I knew I was going to do that. Thank you, Andrea. Okay. Um, Hold on. We'll mute this mic. Great. Okay. Hi, everyone. I am Jocelyn Vio, writer and actor, and also one of the founders of Black Women on Broadway. Thank you so much for being here for Black Women in Theater Appreciation Day. It has been an awesome day, really exciting day. I hope you all feel full and loved and warm and all the things. And we're very excited about this main event. Thank you so much for your patience. We're working through some technical difficulties. And so thank you for that. But I think that this conversation is going to be a really lovely one. So first we're going to bring in one of our first main event guests. She really needs no introduction, but I'm going to do one anyway. She's one of the most celebrated actresses of stage and screen, the winner of a record-breaking 6 Tony Awards, 2 Grammys, an Emmy, and the 2015 National Medal of the Arts, America's highest honor of achievement in the arts, which she received from President Barack Obama. Miss you. On TV, she starred in the hit ABC series Private Practice for 6 seasons, and she currently stars on The Good Fight, which airs on CBS All Access. On stage, she has starred in 12 Broadway shows, including Carousel, Masterclass, Ragtime, A Raisin in the Sun, Porgy and Bess, Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill, Shuffle Along, and most recently, Frankie and Johnny in the Clair de Lune. It is truly an honor to have her here. Please, everyone, welcome the incomparable Audra McDonald. Hi. Thank you so much for being here. So we're waiting on Lillias. She's going to be joining us soon. So everyone hang tight. Don't think that we have forgotten her. She will be with us as soon as she can. But thank you so much for being here. I know this has been like one of those crazy times where you've just been like zooming and booming and streams and dreams, and it's just like madness for you. So thank you for agreeing to do this. I really do appreciate it. I'm sure everyone who is watching right now also appreciates it. So thank you.
My pleasure. It's my pleasure to be here.
Oh, good. So look, I want to start with acknowledging what an astonishing time we're in right now. The world is being devastated by a pandemic, and we've all been forced into isolation. And I think that forced isolation has also kind of caused us to have a real reckoning, at least here in America, and I think the world over, but certainly here in America with racism.
Yeah.
I keep saying that this moment feels like a modern day civil rights movement, in which everybody's being called to the table, Black and white, and being asked, like, where do you stand and are you going to take a stand? And we're seeing that in all facets of our life, politically, socially, in corporations, in Hollywood, and obviously in theater. So thinking about that and thinking about your career and all that you have been through, I literally can't even imagine the stories you must have. But what does this moment feel like for you, reflecting back on your career? And if it at all or anything, if it does or hasn't in any way made you think about what it would have been like in the past when you possibly would have had more strength in numbers in the way that we see now?
Yeah, I think it's been, this feels different. This time feels different than perhaps, going as far back, as like when the tragedy of Amadou Diallo happened, where, that was sort of pre a lot of cell phones and whatnot. And, people sort of, were angered about that and this police brutality that happened with the killing of him. And, people rose up for a minute and then it just sort of went away. And then, Samir Rice and Trayvon Martin and all these other tragedies that have happened that have sort of gotten everybody to rise up in a way for a second, and then it's gone away. This feels different. It feels like a different time. And I think a lot of it has to do with the COVID-19 pandemic. I think because we are all I think anxiety levels are high anyway, and we're being forced into this isolation. And I think that there's just, everybody's being forced to sit in something right now. So in the way that, you're sitting either with your loneliness or the isolation or the fear or anxiety of the COVID, the pandemic, and then the pandemic of systemic racism that is now finally bubbling up to the point where you can't ignore it. And the fact that people are now taking to the streets in a way and continuing to take to the streets. You see people in other countries taking to the streets and raising their voices. And you see the power of Gen Z doing things like, whether it's through cancel culture or all those wonderful kids who bought all those tickets to the Trump rally and then didn't show up. I mean, but
that was fascinating.
That's amazing. I mean, there's a reckoning that's happening right now, and so for me, and looking back on my whole career, I think it's a more awake time, and I think people are realizing where they have. They're realizing the power of their voice. They're realizing the power of unifying, coming together, and they're realizing that that we cannot go back to business as usual after this. Because the world is already in completely changed. It's already been completely changed by this pandemic. So there's no way we can go back to business as usual. And I think corporations are starting to realize that. I think even within the theater industry, people are starting to realize that because there's going to be more accountability. Because there is more awareness. And for me, it's a reckoning too, because, when I started out in my career, a lot of us were the only ones in the room.
Right. I was going to say, like, what was that like to be able to, only have a couple of folks, when you look to your left and your right, and there were only a couple of folks who looked like you. There weren't the strength in numbers that I feel presumably we have now. So like, I would love for you to just speak to that time, because I think people always feel like, take ownership of this or that. And like, sometimes maybe that wasn't so easy. Yeah.
Right. Sometimes the only ownership you could take was just being the one in the room. That in and of itself was enough, not enough, but it was at least some sort of show of resistance or I don't want to say speaking truth to power, and also in order to change the room, you have to get in the room. So if it means that you were the only one in the room for that time being, and then there you are, in terms of like my reviews, a lot of the reviews I got when I did Carousel, some of them were saying things like, well, would there really have been a Black person and whatever. But the fact that I was there, people were being forced to reckon with that. I was being forced in their face in a way, and sort of deal with my talent and my Blackness at the same time. And that in and of itself, for a lot of us back in those days, and even now, I mean, when I first started out, you couldn't audition for Les Mis. A Black person couldn't audition for Les Mis. They weren't going to cast you in Les Mis. I remember very famous producers saying, yeah, well, I know she wants to play Eliza Doolittle, but she's Black. You could say those things. People were saying those things. There was no accountability for that. So the fact that we could at least be in the room and be undeniable with our talent, and being recognized for that, and people having to deal with the fact, oh, she's very talented, she's playing this part, and she's Black. Well, I'll put that over there. But that in and of itself was a lot of the power that we had back then. Social media.
Right.
Stage door in the way that you have it now. You didn't have the all that chat and Broadway world and all these sort of chat boards where people could talk about, whomever and whatever, what performance or cancel culture. You didn't have it, so it's a very, very different time. So I think there's more awareness now, and I think a lot of it has to do with social media. Yeah,
no, I mean, that's certainly a thing. And I mean, speaking even with that, like, I think I'm sure that many of the people who are tuning in, and myself included, however unrealistic it is, always think of like folks like you and your careers as like perfect, just like perfect careers, perfect voices, perfect actors, perfect whatever. And obviously, I know that that is not, realistic, but it's just when you're someone who is struggling to get access, like a lot of us, have in the early part of their career, it just feels like someone's living like this beautiful, amazing, perfect life, and career, and we haven't gotten that yet. And especially now with social media, we're living in this very odd time where everyone's lives are oddly curated, via social media posts and tweets and Instagram posts. So it's very easy. And Photoshop, yes. So okay. So it's very easy to, feel like someone's living like a very perfect life. So can you speak to a time when things were not like that, when you kind of came face to face with people's perceptions of your career and the realities of it?
Yes. No, I've been very honest about, my time at Juilliard before I ended up on Broadway, where I was not fitting into the proper mold of, what they wanted an opera student to be like. And I kind of wanted to sing Broadway, and I was being told, well, you need to be focusing on opera. And, there weren't many Black students there. I was really wanting to be on Broadway. There were not many role models for me to follow on Broadway, although the ones that I could, I did, people like Lillias White. And, there was obviously like Jennifer Holliday and Melba Moore and those people. But I had a suicide attempt while I was at Juilliard. All I'd ever wanted to do was be on Broadway, and I just sort of felt like I was never going to get there. And it really got to me. And I had a lot of wonderful people come to my rescue and help me get through that. So that's where and then like a year and a half later, I got an audition for Carousel and then ended up getting it. So,
Wow.
So, in terms of people saying, well, your career has just been perfect. It's like, you don't know what I went through.
There was almost not a career,
life, literally. And then within that, once Carousel happened, and we had the open-mindedness of Lincoln Center and Nick Heitner casting me in this role. Then after that, certain roles I didn't get along the way. I tried to audition for the ensemble of Beauty and the Beast at the same time that I was auditioning for Carousel, and I couldn't even get cast in the ensemble of Beauty and the Beast. Not that there's anything wrong with people who are playing ensembles. Like, right. I wasn't no one considered me for that, Right. And then as other roles started to, come down the pike, there were some people who would say, okay, yeah, let's look at that. Let's look at this talent and maybe reconsider. Terrence McNally certainly didn't have anything to cast a Black woman in the role of Sharon in Masterclass, but thought, well, this girl has lived the life of a student at Juilliard and has the talent and has the voice, and I don't want to say take a chance, but be ready for it. But there were lots of other things that I auditioned for that didn't come to fruition, and a lot of it because of my color. So it's not been an easy road, but at the same time, I do know that I've been very fortunate and I've been very lucky. And each time that I've walked through one of those doors of opportunity, I've thought to myself, well, good. That's another door blasted down. So the next girl that comes up and says, I want to play Mother Abbess in Sound of Music, and here's why I think I can do it, because I can sing it and I understand who that character is. And it's nothing to do with my color, Right. That you will have an example of, see, that door's already been blasted down, so others can come through it. We're trying to clear and make more space for, women of color in this business. But, something like I was thinking about when I was doing Annie for the TV movie on ABC with Kathy Bates and who else was in that? Kristen Chenoweth and Victor Garber, and they cast me as Miss Grace. Disney decided at the last minute that they needed to reshoot the scene where Daddy Warbucks proposes to Miss Grace, because they were concerned that certain parts of the country were going to have a hard time with Daddy Warbucks proposing to a Black woman.
Wow.
And so we literally had to come in and shoot on a Saturday, which is very expensive to do. Very expensive to do. They called the entire cast and crew in to shoot on a Saturday to reshoot that scene to make it more palatable to certain parts of this country.
Wow.
This is where allyship comes in, because Rob Marshall, the director, his first job, and he knew that he couldn't say no to them. So he went in, and when they told me, I'm sorry, we're going to have to do this, I was devastated, absolutely devastated. Here I am in the room playing this role, and this happens. And I was embarrassed. And Rob Marshall said, okay. So everybody got in their costumes. They called action. We shot one take of Victor Garber, just sort of like, as opposed to handing me a ring. I mean, just like some ridiculous. And then Rob Marshall said, okay, great. That's it. I guess we got it. While we're here, and then instead of taking that day that Disney paid for to reshoot the scene and get it right so that it didn't look like we had any sort of romantic involvement, Rob used that day to reshoot other things that he thought probably could have used a little more cleaning up. And what he gave them was nothing usable. One shot, one take, completely unusable, so that there was no question. They had no choice. Yeah. So that's right there.
Yeah. I think people, right now we're in a moment where, folks are like, we want to do it on our own, and I think that that's a good, way to be, what I'm saying? Of course, but I think there's an importance to allyship and understanding how people can advocate for you in moments when you don't have the power to do so.
I mean, that's the thing. What was I gonna? That's what I mean. It wasn't always. Yeah. I think now, at my age now, and I think the era that we're living in now. I mean, this was 1999, 1998 when that happened. Here we are in this era. I think it wouldn't have been a question. I don't think it would have been a conversation to have been had, or they wouldn't have gone as far as they did. But in that time, it was a very different time. My career was in a very different place, and I didn't have the power. That we've had now.
We're just switching interpreters for a moment. So hello. Okay, great. So we're still working on getting Lillias to those, who are wondering, like, where's Lillias? We're working on it.
Difficulties.
Yes, we're working on it. We're working on it. I want to talk about this, during earlier in the day, I was explaining to you that we had like a little girl chat, thing in Zoom. We were just, having an open discussion about things. People could just write and have questions, especially folks who've been tuning in all day. And something actually came up that was a question that I wanted to talk to you about. I want to read this really quickly because I want to make sure I get the words right. Renee Elise Goldsberry, in her Tony speech in 2016, when she won for Hamilton, she said something that really resonated with me, and it's kind of lived with me. She said, "I've spent the last 10 years of my life, what some would consider the lifeblood of a woman's career, trying to have children." And I think it hit me in a visceral way. Because I am a Black woman, obviously she's a Black woman. I have not taken the leap into having children yet. I do hope to do that someday, but I feel almost embarrassed to admit that I do feel like, how is that going to affect my career? How is that going to affect my life? I work in the theater, I work in TV and film. Like, how will that affect everything? And I don't know. It does make, I feel embarrassed to say that, but it is the truth about, how I feel. And especially hearing her say that. So I guess, can you speak to like what it's like and the choices that you had to make in terms of being a mother in this business, and how easy or hard they were or continue to be, obviously, because I know you have a young one too. So what can you speak to that at all?
Listen, I happen to be in a situation where I've been so focused on my career that both of my children were not planned. I knew I had wanted children, and I and that was something that I wanted very much to be a part of my life. But I too was not sure how that was going to happen. I didn't know how I was going to be able to have children and have a career. And I was so focused on my career. But my children chose me. My children said, hey, guess what? I'm here. This is a soul that you're going to have to, you got to bring me in because you have some things you need to learn. And I'm a soul that needs to be here. It's life-changing, but motherhood and theater, a life in the theater, or having any career is very difficult because you will make all the right choices in terms of making sure that they are fed and taken care of and loved, and you will work yourself to the bone to make sure that they are provided for.
Sure.
But the one person you will leave out of that equation will be you. And that's the one thing that I am learning now. And my 19-year-old daughter is actually teaching me, because she's part of that Gen Z, and she's teaching me in a very specific way as far as what's happening with my 3-year-old, because she says, Mom, I watched how you treated yourself. And believe it or not, that sometimes can informed me of how I was supposed to treat myself. Not how you treated me, how you treated yourself.
Right.
And so please do not do things like make fun of what your body looks like in front of Sally, or not take time for yourself in front of Sally, or treat yourself poorly, or sacrifice yourself. Because I saw those things, and there was a part of me that thought I had to live that way too.
Yeah.
And so if anything, what I've been learning in the past few years has been self-care, especially as Black women, so used to being at just by society being put at the bottom of the totem pole. Everybody else comes before us. We're at the bottom. That we must learn self-care and how to advocate for ourselves, if not for ourselves. Because for me, I was thinking, well, that's, that I need to give everything to my children and everything to my career. And she was saying, that is giving to me. That you can take care of yourself and you advocate for yourself. That is teaching me the same thing. So I'm not going to lie, motherhood is very, very difficult. But what I'm now learning in this day and age, and at this, I'll be 50 on Friday. At this point in my life.
Happy early birthday. I'd sing you happy birthday, but it would truly make you cringe. So.
I'm learning that self-care is something that is not only for myself, but to impart to my children.
Yeah. And
self-advocacy is something not only for myself, but to impart to my children. And that by leading by example is a way to teach them that. So
yeah. And with that, just like kind of a spin-off of that question too, like I feel like one I have both my parents are from Ghana. Everybody is, it's always about work, and I think that that's just really a universal thing. But I'll just speak for my intense African mother. It was about working and getting the job done. Yes. And so I grew up in New York City, so I was really a latchkey kid, and I was I was taking care of myself pretty young. And it was only way, into my adulthood that I ever even heard my mom mention the word guilt. And about not being able to be there for certain things or certain events or certain whatever. And obviously a life in the theater and an 8-show schedule is a tough one. And I mean, was there a balance with that? Were you able to absolve yourself of that?
There still is a balance with that. And, for me, a lot of it is I took her with me wherever I could.
Okay.
I took her with me, and when I couldn't, it took a village. It really, really did. But I have learned, or am learning, that guilt is sometimes can be it can be useless sometimes as an emotion. In that, what do you do with it? It's like you can just sort of change behaviors, but just to steep yourself in it when you know that you were doing the best that you can. I mean, I think it'd be different if you were a horrible person or someone who didn't care about your children or anything like that. But not saying that it's not there, but I'm trying not to let guilt have such a sway over me anymore.
Yeah.
Again, because I don't want to teach that to my children either.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it took a village. I mean, and also it you know, motherhood for me meant no more social life whatsoever.
Okay.
Yeah, you just and the friends that you have going into motherhood versus the friends you have once you're in motherhood. Only those that truly understand, or, you know, I lost a lot of friends because they're like, well, you didn't call me back that day. I was like, you know, in my mind, I was like, I was changing a diaper and then I had to learn my lines and then I had to go do a show and then I had to come home and my baby was up all night. But
Yeah.
friends who don't have that experience couldn't understand it. It was like, well, where's your attention to me? It's like, you don't get that anymore. So that's something I learned to let go of. It's like, you know what, motherhood and your career and your family become your life. And that's what it was for me. And now social causes and social justice is important to me because that also affects my children and your children and our world, the world we want them to live in. So it's about keeping your priorities straight. So I'm not someone who parties anymore, but that's okay. That's not what's important to me, you know.
All right. I think you've earned the right not to party.
Also, self-care. I mean, as performers, we have to take care of ourselves and our bodies. This is our instrument, and you only, you know.
Yeah, true.
I'm probably not the most fun person.
That's all right. Listen, you got to live your life and do what you got to do. You know.
And I'm doing what fulfills me too.
Yes, which is important. Important.
Also, business needs to change too in terms of how we make theater more accessible for working mothers too. That's very important for parents in general. You know? Yeah,
and I think, do you feel like that wavers? Do you feel like you're seeing some version of a shift in that, or do you feel like you're not sure of the context because, you know, I mean, you've earned a right to be able to, like, you know, make demands or what have you. So how do you, you know?
Yes, I mean, yes, absolutely. When I go on jobs now, it's absolutely about, you know, when I travel to London to do Lady Day, it was like, you know, I need a babysitter. You know, I'm taking my 6-month-old baby over. Yeah. And, you know, and my little teenager over there, I need a babysitter. That someone's going to have to pay for that. You guys are going to have to provide me with an apartment that is big enough to handle my family. I need to be close enough to the theater that I can walk home in between shows and be with them. They need to be allowed backstage, all those things. Yes, I've started to advocate for those. Yeah. But the culture, I think, needs to change because I think I'm not amassed a power, but I do have some sway. But at the beginning of my career, I certainly wouldn't have had that. And a lot of women that are just starting out don't have that.
Yeah.
So I think the industry as a whole needs to adapt to that environment so that they can be more supportive, because you shouldn't have to choose between, you know, or, you know, getting pregnant during Shuffle Along. That in and of itself, you know, that's a story within itself. But you know, we need to be supportive of our parents, and especially, you know, our mothers in this business.
Yeah, I want to shift gears and talk about awards because the perception of awards, at least, and I'm speaking very generally, but I think the perception of awards is that you win 1 or 6 and everything in your life changes. It's just like Cinderella vibes, you know, fairy godmother award, you know, has showed up and my life's changed, my career's changed, everything's changed. Life is truly, you know, glass zippers and ball gowns. So, which, you know, listen, I won a couple myself, and I can speak for, you know, myself and say that, like, you know, was there some awareness of who I was as a writer? Sure. But did it shift my day to day? Was my rep paid the next day because I had a Lucille Ortell award? Absolutely not, you know? So I just want to, can you talk about your relationship to awards and how they have or haven't affected you?
The award situation for me has always been an odd one because it's, you know, on one hand, it's mind blowing but I always feel like it happened to someone else. And here's why, because my day-to-day life has not changed. I mean, yeah, you could say, okay, 6-time Tony Award winner, Audra McDonald, but I still have stretch marks. How come my Tonys didn't take care of that? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I have to pay my mortgage.
If only they could, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I still have to pay my mortgage, and it's still, it's still not currency in Hollywood. So you got some Tonys, whatever. We didn't know. What's a Tony? You know what I mean? In that sense, and you still have to show up to do the work. Yeah. So it's not some sort of get out of jail free card, and all of a sudden, a fairy godmother floats down and says you now have all the money in the world. It's none of those things. It's an honor, absolutely, and it's the fact that I have 6 is something I don't think I will ever be able to wrap my head around. Also, because in a way, you have nothing to do with that. People who receive awards. As a Tony, you can't vote for yourself for a Tony. You can't nominate yourself to win a Tony. And all you can do is do your work. And then, honestly, if you do get a Tony Award, then people are like, oh, well, now what have you done for me lately? So in some ways, the pressure builds. Well, if you've got that many Tonys, let me see it in action. Well, I guess you didn't deserve that Tony. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The work still must be done. The work must continue to be done. And I think it's also about evolution as an artist. I want to be a better artist tomorrow than I am today. So I can't rest on my laurels, because I've literally, award means laurels too, right? Because you have them, you can't rest on them. You have to keep going. You have to keep going. You have to keep evolving. You have to keep studying. You have to keep doing the work. And also, I feel like I have to keep showing up for my race. And for my people, as an example, and I want to be strong shoulders that younger generations then stand on, and then they become strong shoulders that generation then stands on, in the way that I am standing on strong shoulders. The Ruby Dees, the Diane Carrolls, the Lena Horns, these women, Lillias, these women who were not only pioneers but spoke out about social justice and were fighting all the good fights and going out, making space for people like me to come through. I want to do the same thing. There's a responsibility to that. So awards are wonderful, but they're over as far as I know.
Yeah. Having
said that, if that award, if me having those awards then inspires a young girl, then fantastic, and makes that girl think, oh, good, then I can win 7. Hell yes, you can.
Yeah.
Especially I'm like, yes, you can win 7 awards. Win 10. Keep doing the work, keep doing the work.
Yeah. That's amazing. And I mean, and thank you for saying that, because I feel like, I can imagine, not that it makes you uncomfortable, or I can't assume that it does, but like there's something to say that, like, you didn't just show up and somebody handed them to you. I also do this thing in the last couple of years on my Instagram. I like to feature Black winners. I just literally cut together videos of Black artists who have won Tony Awards. And I love doing yours. I like to do yours in a row, because at each time you really do look genuinely shocked.
I am.
You also wore white for the first 3 times you won. Is that a habit? That's a random question. But do you just like white? It looks good on you, but just wondering about that.
The dresses that I ended up, it's interesting. It's interesting. The dresses that I ended up wearing for the first were just the right dresses. But I was thinking about my first Tony Award dress, and in terms of, dealing with racism. I went to a very fancy shop to look for a Tony Award dress for when I got nominated for Carousel. And I got followed around the store because they thought I was, I'm a Black young woman in this store, on 5th Avenue, and I got followed around the store, but no one would help me. Followed around, but no one would help me, which is an interesting thing. And so it took Lincoln Center calling the store to say,
what?
Someone please help her. So you're nominated for a Tony and you still having to deal with racism.
Wow.
Just saying.
Wow, Lincoln Center calling a store. We're switching our folks right now. And I do believe we have Lillias with us.
Do we?
Yeah, so let's add her to the stream.
Thank you so much, Imani.
Imani's our stage manager. Miss White, how are you?
I'm okay. Can I tell you how much I hate this right now?
Oh my gosh. Well, we are glad you are here. We are glad you are here. Thank you. And thank you for hanging in there doing all of the tech work. We do appreciate it.
Well, I'd appreciate it if it worked for me.
Oh, well, look, I want to make sure that I read you really don't need an introduction, but I because I want to be very prepared. So I have an intro for you. So let me just read that now. Miss Lillias White is a decorated actress and singer of both stage and screen, having lent her remarkable and exquisite voice to the Disney films Hercules and Anastasia, as well as starring in TV shows like Person of Interest, The Get Down, and Russian Doll, which I feel personally connected to because I wrote on that show. So thank you. On stage, she is quite simply an icon. She has starred in 11 Broadway shows, including Cats, Dreamgirls, Chicago, Once on This Island, How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, Fela, which she was nominated for a Tony Award for her powerful portrayal of Fumilayo Anikulapo Kuti, and of course her Tony Award-winning performance as Sonia in The Life. She's an amazingly talented, beautiful woman, has one of the most anointed voices in Broadway history, is what I say. And it's my honor to welcome you with us this evening. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. It is my honor to be here with my esteemed colleagues.
I've been talking with Audra about several different things, about motherhood, about relationships to awards, about perceptions of people's careers versus realities. And I guess I would love to just hear in general, like specifically with the motherhood question of like, what was that like for you, balancing a career in theater with motherhood, and yeah, like what was that balance for you? If you can speak to that.
Good and shows. Is that what you're over there for a second?
Yes. Can you? Do we got you here?
For me, it really was difficult to balance. For most of the time that my kids were here, I was a single parent. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty much all on me. My family helped me a lot. I won't deny that. My family helped a lot, but I didn't have a partner, a husband to balance that. And it got to be a little difficult at times. It's not easy. And if I had it to do again, I might not have had any kids, to be honest with you. That's the truth. Now, I'm say 100. Yeah, I like to keep it 100. Keep it 100. Because it's a lot to do. And my mother even told me, Lillias, if you're going to be a show business, don't have any children. And I never understood that. Well, I've always wanted to have kids, but it can be done. I very often found myself having to choose. If my son was ill, I had to choose between going to the show, staying at the theater, or coming home, at intermission, or coming home early. So it was a challenge. And there was one point I had both my kids in boarding school. That didn't work out too well either. Because they went up there acting like banshees. So I'm trying to keep it 100 with you that, it has not been easy. But my reward was just physically getting to the theater each night and putting on whatever character I was playing and giving my 100% to that. And it was almost like a vacation going to work. Because I was able to just not be Lillias, not be mommy, and just, go there and be somebody else and have people say yay for being somebody else, and then having that time to kind of disassemble that character, and slowly as I left the theater. That's why I always take so long to leave, because I gotta put that character down and then put back on Lillias to further go ahead with my life. So I think that's how I did it, by making the theater my refuge, and getting there in time to get warmed up and breathe and assume the position, if you will.
Yeah. I have an audience question.
Yes.
A couple audience questions that I'm gonna ask here, which I think are really great. How do you keep going through glass ceilings with so much devastation?
I haven't. I have not gone through the glass ceiling. I've been blessed to have some success in my career, which is a lot of success for a Black woman to have a Tony Award for, the kind of role that I did, and to be nominated for the kind of, iconic woman that I played in Fela. But I've seen white women who win Tony Awards, who go on to have TV shows thrown at them, or other shows thrown at them. And then they ask me, when they see me at an audition, what are you doing here? Why do you have to audition? So I've seen a lot of people who don't look like us, who don't audition. They get a call from a director or a choreographer or a producer, and it's automatic that they're hired. And they don't have to jump through the hoops like we do. So to me, the glass ceiling, we've knocked their heads up against it, but it ain't broke yet, and it needs to get shattered.
Yeah. Audra, do you have something to add to that?
Yeah, I think that is in line with what I said before. That you win a Tony Award, and for a lot of people, it's, well, what have you done for me lately? Well, you had that, great. I won a couple, and like I said, that was after, like, I think winning 2 or 3 Tony Awards, where they're like, well, you can't play that role, you're Black.
Yeah.
Whereas if a white woman in my position had 3 Tony Awards, it would have been a come on, of course.
Yes.
There was There's
and you'd be invited to come into the room and give your input. As far as the character, as far as the play itself, as far as how the music should be. All of those things would be available to you if you were a white woman in this business. I mean, there were times when I would take my Tony and put it in my bag and carry it to the audition. And show it, spin that bad boy. Spin it. Say, okay. How about that?
I would pay to see that, honestly.
I still might do that one of these days.
Yes.
Do it, Lillias.
You know what? I mean, but talking about, like, I guess even comparisons with that, you mentioned with, like, other actresses and, like, you winning awards and stuff. Can we talk about even within the community? Like, this is an audience question here. We're in a time when we are examining how Black female actors support each other. Often we are seeing each other as competition. It feels almost like, and if you could share your thoughts on that, it feels to me like that maybe doesn't exist when you reach a certain level in your career. But, like, can you speak to that, whether that's still a thing or not?
Well, I find that it's more of a thing when you start to try to work in Hollywood as opposed to Broadway. I found that the Broadway community is more of a close-knit community. I feel like it's not as draggy as when you get to Hollywood. That, there are people in Hollywood who know about auditions and they don't tell you anything. I feel like when we have things going on in the Broadway community, we kind of nudge each other and say, did you hear about this? Are you up for that? And I think that happens more with us here in New York and in the Broadway community than it does in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Audra?
Well, I think that there is some truth to that, and I think also I never experienced it as competition. I mean, just as an example, like, you know, we've started this organization, Black Theater United, and it started basically with me and LaChance just sort of like texting each other one night, like saying, "What is going on in this world?" And I'm just, what can we do? What can we do? And now LaChance, I talk to LaChance on some days more than I talk to my children and my husband. I mean, we're joking that we're now sharing a brain. And Lillias is one of our founding members of Black Theater United as well. But LaChance and I started talking one day. I think we were speaking, I don't remember who we were speaking to, but about the fact that for, you know, like Lillias and me and LaChance it felt like there was very few of us in the business, and that we were being pitted against each other when we were not competing with each other, but we were pitted against each other in the business because there was so little room for all of us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there wasn't the competition. Like LaChance and I have always loved each other.
No, that's right. We have never personally had any of that. Yeah. Well, because, and I think for one reason is that we're each so different in what our gifts are, but other people, you know, that probably don't have enough to do or doing that kind of stuff, you know. And I think that casting directors and some directors, they don't have the insight to see who we are, you know, and what we can really do.
Yeah.
As individuals and as a collective.
It's interesting too. I think more, you know, I can't tell you how many times in auditions for TV shows when I was just getting started and whatnot, where they would say, the casting director would say, "Great, can you make that a little more? Can she be more streetwise? Or can you make that?" You know, I'd walk into an audition and they'd be like, "Okay, so, okay, like Dreamgirls, or what are you gonna belt for us, or can you make can you make it really, you know?" And it's like, okay, the Caucasian community is allowed to have so many different layers and levels and colors in terms of, you know, the type of characters that they can play. But for us, it was always just relegated to one or two few little things, you know, the sassy black friend or the whatever. And the fact that we can have just as many hues, you know, at an emotional level and you know, character development wise and vocally, all that, as the white community can have.
It seems to be lost to them.
Especially back then. I think now, more so than ever. I think now, I think a casting director would absolutely get called out for saying, "Can you make that a little more street?" Or "Let's hear the gospel song you're going to sing for me today." I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, there's nothing wrong with that, but we can be so much more than just that. And that's all for a long time that we were seen as when we would walk in the room.
Yeah, well, and it made me stop going to auditions for a while. It really did.
Yeah.
I told my agent, "I'm done with you," and I am. And I love my agent. He's been my agent a long time, but I'm done with that because, you know, his vision is not big enough. But I misbehaved at an audition for a big old hit show. They called me in to be the mama, you know, the big fat mama. And this was a person who was from England. And I just thought for the role, it was really a small part, not even 2 songs, not even a full, complete number. And I thought, well, you know, she could see me on YouTube. So I went in and I kind of acted out.
Okay. And by acted out, you mean you said look me up on YouTube?
So I said, well, can you sing the song? I said, no, I don't know the song. I'm not singing anything. So, but I did do the scene, and I didn't know the scene either. I hadn't memorized anything, but I was in such a mood because the casting director was someone who knew me very, very well. Has seen and seen everything I've done and cast me in TV stuff and movie stuff, and you know, and he was sitting way back in the corner, and it was almost like he was waiting to see what was going to happen, and so it was fireworks when I left there. I left the room. I had on a wig, and I turned the wig, and I. Bye-bye. That'll be in my memoirs.
Yes, yes, which we all will look forward to reading. Yes. So I want to shift just a little bit because we actually had a competition on Instagram for folks who. Oh, Lillias, are you still with us? It looks like you froze for a second.
She'll come back in a minute.
Okay. Okay.
She'll come back.
So we had a competition on Instagram of folks who had to answer a couple of questions. Here we go.
Okay.
All right. So we had a on our Instagram page, on Black Women on Broadway Instagram page, folks who had to answer a couple of trivia questions and could win an opportunity to ask the both of you a question. And so I'm gonna bring in one of them. Her name is Jasmine. So hey, Jasmine, let's bring you in here.
Hey, Jasmine.
Jasmine.
Hi. Well, first of all, I'm like, my heart is beating so fast. Like, I knew this was coming, but like, it's really beating fast. So let me calm down real quick. First of all, just to say, I love the both of you. Like, my childhood was shaped by like two specific movies. One being Hercules, the other being Annie, which you both are part of.
Yay!
And I remember hearing the opening number of Hercules, being obsessed with your voice, Lillias White. Like, I needed to know who she was. I was also 5, so I really didn't know how to use computers and things like that. But once I got older, I knew it was you. And I've been obsessed ever since. So thank you for that. And Audra, Annie, 1999, you were Grace, and your maybe reprise like changed my life. Like, I heard that, and you like hugged her, and I felt the hug. I was like, she's hugging me, like, and she's like, this is the most beautiful thing that I've ever seen in my life. So thank you guys for just being who you are and being amazing. Yeah, so here's my question, so I don't take up too much time. Beyond award shows, like the Antonios that just happened, which was the best thing that came out of quarantine for me. I was just in love with everything about that. So shout out to Broadway Black for that. Yeah. What immediate effective change do you think take place in the months leading up to Broadway's potential reopening, which now has been pushed back to like January, I think? So that all the momentum that we feel now, it doesn't like fizzle out, and we can continue to hold these theatrical institutions accountable. Like, especially for me, because I am not really in the theater. I teach theater to middle school, and I'm a consumer of it, and I put my dollars towards it, and I want to make sure that we're holding these theaters accountable. So what is some change that can happen immediately, do you guys think? Yeah.
Liz, do you want to answer?
Immediately, you can. Are you teaching online right now?
Now we're off because it's summertime.
Oh, right, it's summer.
No more Zoom.
It immediately, I would say, to get familiar with the contemporary and the older Black writers, and read up on find out what the new Black writers are writing, and be familiar with who they are, so that when you get back with your students, you can give them more material to digest about the Black experience, and get them familiar with writers like August Wilson.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but the newer Black writers who are writing contemporary stuff that has to do with how the world functions now, because things are very different than they were 50 or 60 years ago. And so I would just say, open them up to what's new being written. That's one of the things that you can do right now, and open yourself up to the new stuff that's being written.
And then I think I would piggyback on that, because I think the second part of your question, Jasmine, had to do with about what we as a community can do to sort of hold theaters community accountable. I think there's a lot that can be done, because there's our whole house is on fire right now, and then our special room that is the theater community is on fire too. But we have to put out the big fire first. So I think that means being as civically engaged as you can possibly be right now. There are lots of organizations popping up within the theater community. Black Theater United and Broadway Advocacy Coalition, all of those, and there's other organizations. we are doing the work now to start conversations, because I think we're at a point where I think the theater community realizes that there is no, not to quote ragtime, but there is no going back to before.
Right.
Because the consumer is now watching, and the consumer is aware. And in the same way that corporations are putting a pause on where they, with like Facebook and other social media places where they put their money right now, corporations and, big companies are doing that. They're aware of the power of Gen Z.
Yes.
So I want to have control over where my money goes, and I want to know that when my money is going there, it is not going to any nefarious causes, or it is not supporting something that I think is systemically racist. And I think there is power in that. So you staying vocal, like on your socials, starting the conversations, participating in a lot of these forums and conversations that are being held now within the Broadway and the theater community by these different organizations that are then going to start to take to task the infrastructure as we know it to bring about change. We are in a moment of great change. And I think it also happens in not just like, we got to go in and make our demands, but in transforming the narrative, making sure that the stories that we are telling, if you're in the mood to like write a script or something, all these cop shows that we have where it's, it's about, you hear about the policemen and you hear about their life at home, but, and they're being humanized, but the Black and brown body is not being humanized. So you transform the narrative. The other thing is making sure we stay in the room. In whatever way we can. So that doesn't mean, so not everybody has to go out and protest. There are other ways that you can resist. And one of the ways to resist is to be in the room, to get in the room and stay in the room. You know what I mean? So all of that I think is happening on local and sort of national levels within the theater community. And I just don't think that any of these theater companies are going to think that they can go back to what it was before, because there are too many eyes now. And that also means keeping your allies close and keeping them engaged and educated as well, too.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a different time, and I don't think people will allow it. Even in something like, I have a white husband, and we, sometimes we watch TV shows now or movies that were popular when we were younger, and he'll look and he'll go, God, there are no Black people. Yeah. He's aware of that now. I mean, maybe it's because he has a Black daughter too, but he's now aware of that. So it's keeping awareness, staying vocal, and joining any of these organizations that are out there doing their part and getting ready to do more of their part and trying to affect change within the community.
Like BTU.
BWOB, this organization here, that's the other thing. That's what I was going to say. The other thing is also making sure that it's celebratory too. It's not just this, but it's also celebrate us, like with Broadway Black and doing the Antonios. What a joyous thing that was. Why not celebrate? We can resist by being joyful too, and being joyful and proud about who we are and shouting that to the heavens as well, So we do it in all those ways.
So much. That was so great.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you for being a fan, and
Thank you.
Keep at it.
I will. And remember me in like 7 years when I get some money to produce a show that I want all of y'all to be in.
Okay.
We'll figure it out, but don't forget the name. My name is Jasmine. Sis is gonna get some coin. It's gonna happen.
I won't forget you.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Thank you so much.
All right, we have one more fan question. This is from Alexia Marie. Is that how I say it? I'm going to put you in the chat now. Hi.
Hi. Yes, it's Alexia Marie. That's right. Thank you.
Hello, Alexia.
Hi. Well, Jasmine said a lot of the things I wanted to say, which is crazy how the universe works, because we're from the same area, never met, moved to New York, became good friends, and then won separately and been texting each other for 24 hours to stay calm. So a lot of what she said is true, but I especially want to say to you, Lillias, when I first moved to New York, I was working some of your cabarets at the Green Room, and I wasn't blonde when it happened, but I went up to you with a level of audacity and was like, can I call you auntie? Because I love you. And you said yes. And not only did you say yes, but you asked me to sit with you after your set. And I was still on the clock. And you were like, they're not going to say anything to you for sitting with me. I want to talk. And we talked about my experience working Dream Girls overseas and your experience and the people at the table. You were talking about hoops earlier. And through that conversation, you put me through a hoop, because that's how I got a chance to work on a ragtime workshop with Alex Tucker. And that conversation alone, because of who was at the table. And every time you visited after that, I was like, oh, let me talk to my auntie. And you would not let anyone rush you through speaking with me. And I will never forget that. That was such a major part of my move to the city. And like what Jasmine was saying to Audra about Annie, I asked my mom maybe a month ago how many times I made her watch Annie from 1999. And how mad I was when I stayed in New York for a summer and asked her to bring the VHS so I could stage door you, and she forgot it. I was furious. But when I did get to stage door you, my friends and I were in New York for a summer when we were still in college. We were broke. It was 3 Black girls from Howard in one studio apartment for an entire summer. Whoa. And we couldn't afford your show, but we went to a cheaper show and that got out at the same time so we could stage door you. But then I couldn't speak English when I got to the door. And I remember that it was July because one of my close friends has the same birthday as you and won't let us forget it. So it was July, and all I could say was, happy belated birthday. So now I'm going to use my big girl words. My question, I'm very thankful also to Black Women on Broadway for choosing this one in particular, because I've been working on it with a project that I'm working on with my roommate about being young Black women in the theater. And something that we spoke about recently was about agency and boundaries and what we will and won't do in the creative space and our mental health in the creative space. And when we started the project, you two were 2 of the names I wrote down, and I spoke on Black Theater United and Black Women on Broadway when you all were starting. And the question is, what do you two especially want Black women as theater artists to start demanding in the room and start demanding in the creative space and start demanding from the table? Because I've demanded some things with the level of audacity and the spirit of Howard University that I feel like people haven't quite done often. But a lot of my peers learned a lot from that. And I want to know, instead of saying like, I want to work like you and be like you, I want to know what doors you've put down that you want me to walk through with a new energy. So what new things can I demand from the industry?
Well, I mean, I would start by saying you put yourself out there for any role that you think you are right for. Do not ask to see if they're going to colorblind cast it. Do not, you know what I mean? Don't you say no to yourself. And that is a demand that I make of you, because you, in that way that you are not, there are going to be plenty of people in this world that are going to say no to you, but don't you be one of them. So if you feel that you are right to play Maria in Sound of Music, then honey, you go and you stand at that audition and you audition, you know, especially in this day and age where they're not going to say no to you. They're going to let you audition at least, you know what I mean? And that, I would start with that. I would start, I mean, not just saying go for only white roles. I'm just saying go for do not put any limitations on what you think you should be able to play or what you want to pursue. Do not ask permission. I guess that's what I would say. Only ask permission of yourself as far as that's concerned. That's one thing that I would say. Lillias?
I would say take your time and, you know, audition for what you want, what you feel in your heart you can do. And don't be rushed by anyone because the people behind the table haven't had lunch yet or whatever it is. Take your time, prepare as much as you can. And when you get in that room, take your time and do you. So that when you walk out of there, you said, okay, I put what I had out there on the table. I came ready. I came with my best foot forward and I took my time to do it. And do it for you. Mm-hmm. You know, you're auditioning for them, but do it for you. So you can go home and say, you know, they're lucky I was there and give yourself a chance.
Be undeniable. That's the thing. That's the, I mean, because their eyes are being opened right now. And so you do your work. And that in and of itself will be a demand. I mean, once you're in the room, yeah, then of course it's about, and once it's about, you know, agency and it's about, you know, advocating and it's about making sure demanding that it's a safe space. And these are some of the things that we're, discussing now with these organizations, a safe space, a space that is free of bias and all of that. And a space that is anti-racist, not just tolerant, anti-racist. I mean, those demands are absolutely things that you can make. But I think the biggest one is you do your work. Yes. And that's the one thing that was, drummed into me as a kid, and I'm sure drummed into Lillias as a kid. Yeah. As a Black woman, especially, you have to be twice as prepared. You have to be twice as talented just to even be considered.
That's right.
That's right. That has always been the case.
And a lot of times I find that the people on the other side of that table, they don't really know what they're looking for. So it's up to you to be your true, authentic self and prepare as much as you possibly can and go in there and give them you. Because sometimes they don't know what they're looking for until they see you and they say, oh, Alexia. Yeah. She's the one. Yeah.
Thank you.
Real life.
Right.
My stepson just brought me pizza. That's nice.
Yeah, if you all ever get an invitation from You Good Sis, that's me. Thank you so much.
Invitation from who?
You Good Sis. That's the name of the platform, YouTube show and podcast. And we check in to say you good, because sometimes we're not, and that's what we're going to talk about.
I love that.
Definitely check in on me, because I'm not always so good. Okay.
I love you all so much. Thank you.
Thank you,
Alexia. All right, so I want to end with something really, really fun. I had a question. I was doing my research. I was like, going to ask you, like, have the two of you ever worked together? And then I came across this clip and I said, well, I'm going to play it for them in this thing. So here we go.
That was the ugliest dress I've ever had to wear.
What?
For those wondering,
that dress is so ugly that I was on.
For those wondering what that clip is from, because I'm sure people are going to be writing in like, what is that? This was an appearance you all were making on the Rosie O'Donnell show in 2001. You guys were doing a benefit concert of Dreamgirls, which starred Miss Lillias White, of course, as Effie, Audra McDonald.
We were all sorry, honey. We were all
as Dina. I want to make sure I mention some of the other cast as well. We saw in this clip, Heather Headley, Tamara Tooney, Billy Porter, Norm Lewis, Darius and Aisha DeHaas, Brian Stokes Mitchell, Shoshana Bean, and Montego Glover, just to name a few of the folks who were in the show. So one, I know that was a really unique experience because that benefit concert happened only a couple of weeks after September 11th. And as I understand it, you all have been rehearsing throughout the summer. And I think, Audra, you had to take a cross-country trip, drive in from the West Coast into the East Coast to even do this again. So
and Audra had just had a baby.
I just had a baby.
And I had a broken foot.
Right. I saw that in the clip too. So, I mean, listen, like all of those names I just mentioned, it just sounds like, okay, well, what's that like when legends get together and just casually blow the roof off of buildings? But like, what is that like to be able to, I guess, to work with people that Audra, you spoke to like even admiring Lillias. So like, what is it like to be able to work together, or even if you want to speak to that Dreamgirls moment, because it's a really fun clip.
Well, the Dreamgirls thing was fun, but Audra and I got to do something in Boston. Remember that?
Oh, in Northampton.
The Boston Pops.
Boston Pops. Yes, that too. Yes.
Yeah. And we had so much fun. And I got to watch this chick here and look and see, how does she do that? How does she move that muscle? How does she get that tongue out of the way? How does she make that sound? And I'm still in awe. When I saw her do Lady Day, I didn't believe it was her. I thought, oh, they got a recording and they're cheating. I went backstage and remember I said, open your mouth, let me see who's in there.
Yeah, no, Lillias, I mean, the same. I had a picture of Lillias on my wall when I was 16, 17 years old in Fresno, California, from her as Effie in the tour of Dreamgirls. And Lillias, today, if you tell me that I am stuck on a desert island and I have to listen, I can only pick 3 voices that I can listen to. Lillias will be one of those voices. Lillias' voice is just, as I always say, adds years to your life. In terms of working with each other, it's when we do, it's family. Because we all come up in this business together. And the way that you were saying, with people competing, is we've always just kind of lifted and supported each other.
Yes.
Family. So when we all came together, especially for that Dreamgirls concert, it's amazing we got any work done because we were kikiing so much.
We kikiing, okay? Yeah. Yeah, we had many moments. And that's the thing. I love working with Audra because it is not it's not grinding. It's not grueling. It is light. It's love. It's totally love in the room. And there's nothing like it.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's a support. I mean, literally, they are my family. Lillias is my family. All the Black Broadway community, the one that we have come up with Norm and LaChance and all. That's family.
It's family.
And we've always treated each other, and that's actually in some ways because we have always been the only one in the room, and now that there's more of us, it's sort of just our family is growing bigger finally, and our family's feeling stronger. But
I feel like that's been our salvation.
Yes.
A lot of these years is the fact that we are family, that we're not doing this to each other, and we can say, oh, we can exhale with each other.
Absolutely.
But to say that Audra McDonald's incredible in everything she does, she's golden to me, and so. And
Lillias has always been golden, the one voice I will listen to, and auntie to me.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Okay, I'm not that old, right?
Look, I'm 50 on Friday, girl.
Really? Whoa.
Right. We're gonna skip it this year. COVID.
I know. Yeah. I think you can do it next year.
Wow.
Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. Really, this was like such an incredible treat. I think for everybody who's been tuning in all day, when we say the main event, we mean the main event. Like there's not a moment in time other than, COVID, obviously, where we're able to get some legends in the room and talk and chat and just love on each other for, an hour. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being such an inspiration to so many people, as you saw, like Jasmine and Alexia. It means a lot. And it really means a lot to me. This is pretty much the highlight of my life. So
thank you. And thank you to this incredible organization for putting something so joyous and helpful and inspiring and supportive together. We need to support each other and lift each other.
I'm very grateful as well for the support and the love and the celebration, because this is a rough time right now. Every day there's something to cry about on the news. And just to have this moment in time to celebrate and enjoy who we are and love on each other, it means the world to me. So thank you for including me in my beautiful friend.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies. I'm going to just move you out here and I'll say my last final remarks, but thank you and have such a great night.
Thank you, Jocelyn.
Bye.
Thank you, Andrea.
Okay, friends. So it's up to me now to wrap up the day. So thank you so much to everyone who has been joining us today for Black Women in Theater Appreciation Day. We are so grateful for everything you've done, all the comments, all the tweets, all the Instagram posts. It's just really been amazing. This, like we said in the beginning, this was our only goal, was to have everyone feel loved and celebrated and have a full day of that. So if you want to all go and grab a drink, I know I certainly will. If you registered for the event, you will be able to get the Zoom link to join us for the after party, of which my alter ego, DJ Coco, will be DJing. There are folks in the chat saying thank you to myself, Danielle, and Amber. And trust me, I speak for all three of us when I say you're very, very, very welcome. Amber is including the Zoom link for the dance party in the chat. So just if you didn't get it, or for whatever reason, you'll get it soon. I'll be there in a couple minutes. I just need a second to breathe. And yeah, and some folks have been asking about whether this video is going to be available after today. And yes, it will. We're going to make sure that we have it available, and we'll share all of that information on our Instagram account, Black Women on Broadway. And I think that's it. So bye, everyone. See you at the Zoom party. And thank you for joining us today.